During my leadership career, I have seen leaders that are good at adaptive leadership, and leaders who have no idea about how to be adaptive. Being able to adapt to changing circumstances is important for a leader, and knowing about the adaptive leadership framework will surely benefit you personally and professionally. Adaptive leadership is a framework and approach to addressing change and implementing solutions that help the organization to adapt and overcome change in an effective way. By watching this video, you will learn to understand the concept of adaptive leadership better. You will learn about the process involved, the pros and cons of adaptive leadership, and how to be good at it. I will also provide you with some examples from my career and a few famous leaders who are known for being skilled in adaptive leadership. Support us by clicking thumbs up and continue to learn more about leadership by subscribing to our channel. Adaptive leadership is the brainchild of Harvard Kennedy School lecturers Dr. Ron Heifetz and Martin Linsky. The word adaptive may trick you into thinking that adaptive leadership is similar to situational leadership. There are some similarities, but there are also stark differences. Before going to the essential elements of adaptive leadership, let's look at the background of the framework real quick. Change is a natural part of organizational growth. However, it is often difficult for employees to adapt to major changes because they are comfortable with established norms. What is adaptive leadership? Adaptive leadership is a practical approach and leadership framework for addressing organizational challenges and implementing the solutions that allow employees to thrive and adapt effectively to upcoming change. Adaptive leaders separate problems into two categories: technical and adaptive. Technical problems can be solved by experts in the field because an answer already exists. On the other hand, adaptive problems have no existing solutions and require an adaptive leader who helps define the problem and then mobilizes a team to come up with possible solutions. Dr. Heifetz and Martin Linsky's work on adaptive leadership has been used by both public and private sector organizations globally. In fact, Dr. Heifetz founded the Center for Public Leadership at Harvard Kennedy School in 2000. He and his team teach students the fundamentals of adaptive leadership and how to use it in a world with continuously changing economic, political and social challenges. Adaptive leadership is much more of a framework rather than a leadership style. The framework can be used as a method of handling change and adapting to changing circumstances or environments. To deploy and implement the adaptive leadership framework well, you would need to use several different leadership styles in the process. What are the elements of adaptive leadership? Adaptive leadership involves several steps to handle change. The 3 steps of adaptive leadership are: Step 1. Identify core practices that are necessary to keep, as well as those that are obstacles within the organization and need to be discarded. This step is absolutely critical. If you do not know what needs changing and what should remain, how would you be able to successfully adapt your organization to any upcoming change? Step 2. Develop and test possible solutions. Those things in need of fixing need appropriate solutions. In adaptive leadership, it is key to develop as well as to test these solutions. Testing makes it possible to circle back and adjust the intended solution so that an even better solution evolves. Sometimes this needs several loops. Step 3. Integrate the solution that works best. Once the solutions are known, tested and refined, an adaptive leader starts to implement and integrate them on a wider scale for a more sizable change and greater impact. To make it easier to implement adaptive leadership, there is a collection of principles that you can follow. The 6 guiding principles of adaptive leadership. Ronald A. Heifetz and Donald L. Laurie mention a total of 6 guiding principles in a 1998 article in Harvard Business Review. These principles are meant to be used when leading adaptive work, essentially performing profound change management. The 6 principles of adaptive leadership are: 1. Get on the balcony. 2. Identify the adaptive challenge. 3. Regulate distress. 4. Maintain disciplined attention. 5. Give work back to the people. 6. Protect voices of leadership. Before we go through them in a bit more detail, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Get on the balcony. A leader needs to obtain a higher vantage point, i.e. a balcony, where he or she can get an overview of the ongoing change and any potential patterns and problems. Getting too involved means you might not see the forest for the trees basically. If you are involved in activities and actions, you might get consumed and not see overarching patterns. These overlooked issues could be internal conflicts, change resistance, avoidance, and other problems that can be part of change, just to name a few examples. The next principle is to identify the adaptive challenge. If you cannot adapt to change, you will not survive for long. As change takes place faster and faster, this is becoming ever more important. A leader needs to understand not only the people around them, but also themselves, to enable faster and better adaptation to change. What is the adaptive challenge? What prevents adaptation? How can fast adaptation be enabled? Seek inspiration from visionary and transformational leadership when it comes to this. You can find links to our articles on those topics in the description below. The third principle is to regulate distress. Changing and adapting is difficult, and it causes distress and other negative feelings. An adaptive leader needs to pace the change, so people aren't overwhelmed. A leader also needs to retain motivation and productivity during the change. The leader needs to be a rock, being a steady force in times of change and turmoil for others to follow. We have 3 more important principles to go in this list. The next one is to maintain disciplined attention. Retain focus on the change and the challenge ahead. Avoid distractions such as conflicts, resistance to change, etc. The leader needs to allow different opinions and initiatives without getting sidetracked and losing focus on the adaptive work. Next, give work back to the people. An adaptive leader needs to gather information and perspectives from as many as possible. People in different places of an organization will see changes in environment and business factors at different times, and in different ways. The leader needs to avoid an ivory tower and ensure an influx of information from different channels. Furthermore, the people need to be involved in change and be empowered as well as share responsibility. Only then will they participate fully and become more willing to adapt to change requirements. You can achieve this by adopting a democratic leadership style to some extent. There's a link to our article on democratic leadership in the video description. The last of these 6 guiding principles is, protect voices of leadership. Make sure people aren't punished for airing their opinions. Not even if those opinions are bad, or even treacherous. Punishing people for daring to speak their mind will reduce creativity and innovation, since people will stop sharing their ideas and opinions due to fear of repercussions. If you can learn these principles, and understand how to put them to use, the more successful you will become in adaptive leadership. We have now gone through the concept of adaptive leadership as well as the elements, or steps, of the framework. On top of that, you have learned the 6 principles of adaptive leadership. At this point, I'd like to share a few examples of adaptive leadership from my career as the top leader of an MNC. After that, you will learn about the pros and cons of adaptive leadership, and last but not least, how to become great at it. I have obviously seen many changes take place during my 15 years in leadership positions in business. Some change was handled good, and some was handled real bad. The good examples are more difficult to recall than the poor examples. I guess the good adaptive leaders handled change so smooth that the change wasn't that noticeable. The opposite also applies. Poor adaptive leadership sticks out like a sore thumb and is difficult to forget. I once worked with a leader that was truly sensitive to change resistance. He was capable of quickly understanding when the people involved were starting to lose faith or interest in what was being done. This adaptive leader quickly countered with renewed communication efforts and pulling people back into attention mode. He was also quick to identify and remove roadblocks as well as to question things regularly. Just because a change seemed necessary 6 months ago and a solution was being implemented doesn't mean it shouldn't get challenged later. He reassessed the change program repeatedly when some of the prerequisites for the change were affected. This doesn't mean he always stopped the change, but at least the decision parameters were revisited. Once that had been done, a decision to move forward anyway, or a decision to stop or modify the approach was taken. There was little to no prestige involved in this process, and I think that was key. This leader was willing to change his own decisions if need be. What we see here is an example of getting on the balcony, identifying the adaptive challenge, regulating distress and maintaining disciplined attention, i.e. 4 of the 6 guiding principles. This leader also moved freely between Step 3 and back to Step 2 for solution re-evaluation as required, ensuring a proper end result. This is difficult. An adaptive leader must avoid tunnel vision and remain sensitive to the environment, and remain open to re-evaluating previous assumptions. When it comes to bad examples of adaptive leadership, it has often been connected to prestige and tunnel vision. I have worked with plenty of leaders who are unwilling to second-guess their own decisions. You must be able to reconsider things after a while since circumstances and the basis of the decision can change over time. Now that we have reviewed the concept, the elements, the principles and a few examples, it is time to look at the pros and cons of adaptive leadership. After that, we will wrap things up with some advice on how to become effective at adaptive leadership. Before we start, I'd like you to do me a favor and click the thumbs up icon and subscribe to this channel. It would be a great reward to us for making this video. As with most approaches to leadership, there are advantages and disadvantages with adaptive leadership as well. The first advantage is that change is always expected. Change doesn't take an adaptive leader by surprise. Instead, this leader has established systems and strategies to quickly respond to challenges as they arise. There is always at least one backup plan readily available when an adaptive leader is around. Advantage number 2, adaptive leaders embrace multiple opinions. Adaptive leadership thrives on being able to bring a diverse group of people together to brainstorm ideas and come up with feasible solutions. More ideas lead to better long-term results. Team members are also able to learn from each other and experience some personal and professional development. In this way, adaptive leaders don't emphasize hierarchy but rather use a democratic or participative leadership style. There's a link to our article on democratic leadership in the description. The third advantage is that there isn't a heavy emphasis on rules. An adaptive leader sees rules as guidelines, rather than a strict way of doing things. The leader focuses on achieving the best possible result in the best possible way. It may even become apparent that the existing rules just really weren't working for the organization and need to be discarded. The fourth out of our 6 pros of adaptive leadership is that there is a deep understanding of the team's emotional needs. Adaptive leaders tend to have high emotional intelligence. Therefore, they can quickly identify how an employee may feel about a particular situation. Once understanding the emotions involved, the leader can provide the assistance necessary so that each employee can keep functioning optimally. This of course requires a lot of empathy on the leader's part. The next advantage is that the team's strengths are effectively utilized. Each team member plays a significant role in a change process. A strong adaptive leader understands this and puts team members in positions where their strengths are leveraged. Adaptive leaders also provide support so that these strengths can be developed further and contribute to the team members' professional development. The sixth and last advantage in our list is that accomplishment is rewarded with autonomy. An adaptive leader doesn't reward a team member because of their amicable professional relationship. Instead, this leader rewards based on results. It's not about tracking hours or tasks completed in a day, it's about whether this team member is able to deliver the required results within the deadline. After these nice advantages, we will show you the disadvantages of adaptive leadership. In a minute, we will wrap up with advice on how you can become good at adaptive leadership. The first disadvantages is that there is no emphasis on structure. One of the strengths of adaptive leadership is also one of its weaknesses. An adaptive leader has to put lower priority on structure for the most part so that the change process can be effectively implemented. However, some employees work better in structured environments and adaptive leadership wouldn't be a good fit for them. A good adaptive leader will try to add some level of structure for those employees who need it. Nevertheless, there are still risks, productivity losses and unclarities in this relatively unstructured work environment. Another disadvantage is the view that rules are meant to be broken. An ethical leader may cringe after observing how an adaptive leader works. Ethical leaders support the rules of an organization because those rules align with their personal values. However, an adaptive leader may bend, or even break the rules so that the organization can implement the best possible change strategy. This could result in doing things that are wrong from an ethical standpoint, just to reach the adaptive goal. Finally, the last disadvantage is that changes can be made too quickly in adaptive leadership. An adaptive leader may end a project that is failing before it is given a chance to succeed. This may not sit well with some members of the team and result in a rift between members of the organization. This distance between team members work against effective change. We are reaching the end of this video, and it's time to give suggestions on how you can become effective at adaptive leadership. There are 4 qualities that you should grow and demonstrate if you want to be an adaptive leader. These qualities are character, organizational justice, development, and emotional intelligence. Let's take a closer look at the first quality, which is character. Although an adaptive leader isn't afraid to break the rules, he or she still has strong character. This leader takes great pride in being transparent, honest, and creative. By owning up to mistakes and correcting them, the leader earns respect from the team. Assess your own way of leading and consider how you behave towards others. Learn more about leadership styles and how you can use the right style with intent, rather than relying on your natural behavior. You really should check out our video on the 6 leadership styles based on emotional intelligence. This set of leadership styles can truly increase your impact as a leader. Click the link visible in the corner now. The second quality is organizational justice. Values and respect are important to an adaptive leader. Each team member's opinions are valid and welcomed. Additionally, adaptive leaders take the time to think about the best way to introduce change to the team rather than imposing it on them suddenly. Learn more about transformational leadership, democratic leadership, and affiliative leadership. Make sure to avoid being an autocratic leader, since that would result in poor organizational justice. You can find videos on many of these leadership styles on our channel, so take this opportunity to subscribe to this channel right now. The third quality is development. This means that adaptive leaders always keep up with the latest trends. This awareness and continuous preparations mean that they have an array of strategies they can choose from when change is needed. Not all strategies work the way the leader intended, but it is something to start with. The adaptive leader can still quickly adapt and find a strategy that fits. Make sure you are aware of what's happening in the world around you and consider how trends can impact yourself and your organization before it happens. Always learn as much as you can and keep developing yourself. The last of these 4 qualities is emotional intelligence. Strong emotional intelligence means that you have a good understanding of your feelings and the feelings of those around you. Well-developed emotional intelligence helps you to respond to your team in a fair, calm, and empathetic manner. There are many facets of emotional intelligence. Being empathetic, looking for emotional reactions, and respecting people's feelings, as well as adapting your actions to them, will get you far in this area. Check out our resource page for some great books and courses pertaining to emotional intelligence. The link is in the description below. Emotional intelligence is key for all leadership, not just for adaptive leadership. Again, I do recommend you take a look at our video on the 6 leadership styles based on emotional intelligence. This is the most complete styles framework, and the only one you need to excel as a leader. Click the link in the corner. You have now learned a lot about adaptive leadership. This information is based on our adaptive leadership article. If you enjoyed this video, please support us by clicking thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. Good luck in your efforts with adaptive leadership and have a nice day. Thank you for watching.